I refused to let my stepmom wear my mother's diamond necklace, and now she's threatening to kick me out of the house. I can't believe my father can't realize that this woman is good for nothing and all she cares about is his money. So I tell Grandma something very important. My mom passed away when I was in high school, and until I finished high school, it was just my dad and me. Well, we were mourning until the end of my high school years, and my dad met Jenna. In the initial years, Jenna was very kind. She acted like a sister, helped me with my studies, and prepared meals. When my father proposed to Jenna after I graduated high school, I did not object because Jenna seemed nice at first, but she changed a lot after they got married. My mom was a wealthy woman, and my dad had a lucrative job. So when my mom passed away, the inheritance went to my father. I realized that Jenna married my dad for the money. My dad was unaware of Jenna's change, and Jenna convinced my father to hinder my university life. Instead, I stayed at home, and Jenna began treating me like a maid. She made me do all the housework, all the cooking, and everything while pretending that nothing happened when my dad came back home. I didn't speak up because my dad was happy, and after losing my mom, he deserved to be happy for the rest of his life. Jenna constantly criticized every single thing that I did, blaming me for being unsuccessful or untalented. After enduring for a few more years, I found a job and moved out from my parents' place to start living on my own. My dad was very sad when I left. He didn't want me to go, but I could not stay with Jenna any longer. I told my father that I could visit occasionally. My days were now spent commuting between work and home. I would visit my parents on holidays, and one holiday when I went to my parents' house, Jenna told me that I did not belong here, and that my father was better off without me. Although my dad occasionally helped me financially, Jenna claimed that the money wasn't rightfully mine and that I was no different from a beggar. My pride was shattered, and as soon as I returned home, I started preparing for university again. I wanted to both study and work, making my father proud and embarrassing Jenna. I became an architecture student at a reputable university. Right after enrolling, I surprised my father with a phone call. He was overjoyed and said he was proud of me. After losing my mom, Jenna had thought it would be difficult for me to continue my education, so my dad wanted me to stay home and be at peace. I knew my father had always been well-intentioned, but Jenna was a complete devil. Can you believe she tried to stop him from spending his own money on my education? I was having busy days at university, and my job was adding to the pressure. I didn't even have time to sleep. My dad told me he could support my education, but he was pressuring me not to go to work. During the Christmas week, I went to my parents' house, and while chatting at the dinner table, I was talking about my university and job. Jenna was visibly uncomfortable hearing about it. In fact, she was so provoked and uncomfortable that she started asking questions about my nightlife just to get my father going. She knew my dad was strict about such things, and I was aware of it. When I told my father that I was overwhelmed and I could not even sleep, he interrupted our conversation and said that I no longer needed to go to work and that he would cover all expenses. Jenna turned purple with jealousy, and I thanked my father and went to my room. After Christmas, I returned to school and stayed in my own place for a long time. I stopped visiting my parents because my goal was to finish school with honors before leaving. I graduated as the top student in my department and completed my internship. It was at a prestigious company where they even offered me a permanent position, Despite being older than the other students, no one seemed to mind. My parents came to my graduation, and Jenna was far from happy. My dad bought a nicer house closer to my workplace as a gift and beautifully decorated it. Jenna was constantly questioning my father's decisions, trying to just stop him. For the first time, my dad got angry with Jenna and sent her to a hotel, allowing us to, spend some quality time together. I took him to my workplace, introduced him to my bosses, and he proudly spoke about me. It was the happiest day of my life. Unfortunately, my father died a year after I began working from a heart attack. He was hospitalized but could not live due to the severity of the heart attack. After his death, I avoided going to the family house for a long time. Frankly, I didn't want to see Jenna. Consumed by the grief of losing my father, I focused solely on my work. Even participated in projects and attended all these endless meetings. Jenna, she didn't like me. Maybe never did, and I hoped that she loved my father, but I was wrong. The reason became apparent when my grandmother invited me back to the family home on the same day as Jenna's 50th birthday, which coincided with the anniversary of my dad's passing. So, I returned because of the invitation, intending to have a small commemoration for my dad's anniversary. However, Jenna, during her birthday celebration, told me not to act unnecessarily and dismissed the idea of a small remembrance of my dad's death. I was surprised by her words, but what shocked me even more was Jenna's desire to wear my mom's diamond necklace for her birthday. Well, due to my lack of trust in her, I refused this request, not wanting her to use my mom's inheritance for her own pleasure. This decision led me to being kicked out of the house. Jenna claimed to be the true owner of the house, stating that it was inherited after my dad's death and that she could kick me out. Even if I were to be evicted, I wasn't going to fall for this claim like a fool. First and foremost, I decided to meet with my grandmother. I told her everything about how Jenna has been behaving for years, the disrespect she showed during my dad's memorial, and how she kicked me out of the house. My grandmother, a figure feared by my dad and Jenna in the past time, was a person of unwavering moral values. The anger she felt towards what I shared prompted her to take immediate action. One day, she went to Jenna's house and revealed that she was the true owner of the home. In other words, according to the will, even if my dad passed away, my grandmother could rewrite it as long as she was still alive. Upon hearing this, Jenna remained silent. My grandmother also made her do the cleaning, humiliating her for being incompetent, but this was just the beginning. Determined to bring justice by turning my stepmom's life into hell, my grandmother was resolute. Frankly, I thought that these events would be a lesson for Jenna. In the end, my grandmother called me back to my stepmom's house. This way, I'm back in my house and got the ownership of the house too. However, my grandmother made a gesture of allowing my stepmom to live in the house, of course including the demand for monthly rent as part of this gesture. When things reached this point, I moved on with my life. At least Jenna woke up and now she's living as a tenant in my home. I wanted to kick her out right then and there, but my grandma stopped me. She didn't say why, but perhaps she had something planned for Jenna. Anyways, goodbye, guys. If anything exciting happens, I'll keep you posted. Updates. Number 1. I read the comments, and I do want to thank you guys for the good wishes. I'll always continue to stand on my own feet. However, I was very surprised by the negative comments I read, even in such a situation. They seem to justify the actions of bad people. They don't talk about what Jenna did to me, and compared to what Jenna did to me, what I did to her is absolutely nothing. You're just malicious people, and my grandmother is a respected historian and has always been a woman of integrity. I was thinking of kicking Jenna out, but because my grandmother is a kind and thoughtful person, she suggested that Jenna stay at least by paying rent, getting a job, and reflecting on her mistakes. Giving Jenna a reward on top of what she did? How is that even a thought? Even though Jenna applied for jobs, nobody wanted to hire her because of the reason she left her previous job. Jenna would not even communicate with anyone at home. She wouldn't even look at us. She had an attitude as if we were deliberately making Jenna sad. I spoke to an old friend from high school and asked for a favor. She helped me by finding a job for Jenna because she needed to be paid. She had to pay rent, and just think about what she had done. I told Jenna that I found her a job and that she needs to pull herself together. Our relationship did not improve much, but at least we weren't as hurtful to each other as before. We even started having conversations about work during dinner. Jenna was slowly turning back into that sweet woman I first met. I didn't want to get my hopes up, but maybe Jenna and I could be friends. Jenna was confusing me by behaving like this, and a week later it was my birthday. Jenna had baked a cake for me, and we celebrated my birthday by chatting and remembering my dad. After celebrating my birthday, that comment came to my mind. Maybe Jenna loved my dad, but I didn't understand it. Thinking that we could talk, I brought alcohol home one day after work. Jenna and I start drinking and talking, and she was apologizing to me and expressing her regret. That night, I thought we could fix things between us. One evening when I returned home, I noticed that Jenna had angrily retreated to her room. I decided to talk and went inside. I asked Jenna, "Is everything okay?" But the answer I received surprised me. Jenna said that my grandmother constantly pressured her and looked down on her. I was shocked because my grandmother was usually fair and understanding. However, Jenna's insistence and anger made me start to think. Perhaps there was a disagreement between them, and something had happened that I did not notice. I wanted to trust Jenna. We had just started to mend things between us, and I could not be distrustful of her so soon, and I really felt torn and trapped, not knowing what decision to even make. Update number 2. Well, that night, Jenna's statements confused my mind, leading me into an emotional turmoil. Her claims about my grandmother's constant pressure had truly complicated the dynamics of our relationship. While on one hand, I was trying to reconcile with Jenna, on the other hand, I was attempting to understand my grandmother's perspective. The next day, I decided to explain the situation to my grandma. When I went to her and asked about the situation, she told me that Jenna was negligent in cleanliness and order, and did not adhere to those house rules. That's why she felt the need to pressure her. She also mentioned that Jenna avoided contributing to the household expenses. See, Jenna was at fault in the situation, but she was also genuinely upset. So, I told grandmother that continuously pressuring and lecturing Jenna would not solve the problem, and that even if Jenna was wrong, she should at least talk to her instead. My grandmother became angry at my words, stating that I was just trying to teach her a lesson, that I'd forgotten what Jenna had done. She was right, but I did not want to hold a grudge against Jenna, who was currently trying to become a better person. Well, a few days later, I decided to talk to Jenna. I needed to express my feelings and the uncertainty I was experiencing. Perhaps we could resolve our issues by openly discussing them. I went to her room, knocked on the door, and just said, "Jenna, let's talk." She was still standing there with an angry expression upon her face, and I began explaining my emotional state and expressed my desire to solve our problems as we, have talked about this before. Jenna starts to explain every single feeling that she was having, and I suggested, why don't we just try to resolve our issues over dinner one evening? Well, Jenna agreed. We gathered for dinner and started to talk. My grandmother listed the mistakes that Jenna had made, and Jenna explained that it was normal to have some slowness due to her age, and that she paid what she could from her job. Well, when my grandmother mentioned that Jenna always had excuses for living in this house, Jenna cried and went to her room. So I start to become very, very angry with my grandmother at this point, telling her that what she did was wrong and that she should not respond to Jenna's efforts like this. My grandmother went ahead to tell me after that, not trust Jenna too much, and left. I did not understand why she would say something like that, though. Jenna's changed a lot, and I did not want my family to fall apart. I decided to support Jenna financially and help with household chores. However, my grandmother did not approve of what I was doing, saying that I was wrong to take on someone else's responsibilities. I was trying to justify my grandmother and build a bridge between Jenna and her. After months passed, my relationship with my grandmother deteriorated, while Jenna tried to get along with her. Jenna's good intentions secretly made me happy until one evening when I overheard Jenna talking on the phone. Initially, I thought I should not eavesdrop on her phone convo, but after hearing a couple of sentences, I realized that I needed to. Well, Jenna was telling a lawyer that she would soon convince my grandmother and reclaim the home. She was even considering suing me to take all the inheritance, and there was no love or genuine connection in the convo. It seemed like she wanted to possess the money, property, and assets of a stranger. The family relationship we've built over all this time turned out to be a deception. I was in shock after hearing what I did. Update number 3. That evening, I understood very clearly why my grandmother had said what she said. It was a game. I'd expected Jenna to be so malicious because of her, I had distanced myself from my grandma. I told her that we would become close with Jenna and become a family. How could she resort to such betrayal? It took some time for me to digest what I heard, and I was contemplating what I should do. Suddenly, I could not just stop helping. Jenna would figure out what I knew by then, and when I tried to talk to my grandmother, she was not talking to me as before. My mind's in turmoil, and I'm truly unhappy. I was very angry with Jenna, for now everything has appeared the same. I needed to mend things with Grandma, and I cooked the meal she loved and talked about topics she enjoyed. My grandmother must have realized something was wrong because, well, when we were alone at home, she asked me what happened, and I told her that she would not believe me even if I explained, as we were not as close as before. My grandmother assured me that she would be on my side no matter what. So, then I went ahead and just recounted Jenna's phone convo, detailing examples of her insincere, artificial behavior, such as Jenna not cooking despite being tired every day after work, but making my grandmother's favorite dishes and cleaning her bed, giving her massages. Jenna avoided discussing any contentious topics with Grandma and was always trying to win her favor. My grandmother found Jenna's actions abnormal, suspicious, and phony, and found it strange that Jenna, who never approached her before, was constantly being overly flattering over creating a rift between us. My grandma and I devised a plan to research Jenna's past, ensuring her disgrace in both her professional and social circles, and then evict her from the home. This way Jenna would have nowhere else to go, and her plans for personal gain would fail, and she would lose all respect in her surroundings, and, while Jenna was at home, we pretended as if our relationship with Grandma was strained. But when Jenna left, we continued with our plan. To ensure the success of it, I had Jenna follow my savings, obtaining information that was not within my reach. In the past, she's taken someone else's inheritance before my father's time and kicked their children out of the house, but she had hidden it very, very well, making it difficult to find. Based on this information, we invited those children to join for our revenge plan. This revenge wasn't just mine now, it's theirs too. I'm sure my father married Jenna without knowing all this information. Additionally, we recorded Jenna's phone conversations, and in one of those conversations we learned that Jenna had a young lover. Yeah, she was using the money she received from me to spend on him. My grandmother was getting close to Jenna, and Jenna genuinely seemed very happy. This happiness would not last because the disappointment she made me feel would be reciprocated. We planned to reveal the information we gathered about Jenna on the anniversary of my father and Jenna's marriage. Jenna had committed legal crimes and would not escape the consequences. Act like she loves my father, spends my money when she has a younger lover, and tries to take everything away from me. Jenna, her end is near. Updates. Number 4. Hey guys, it's me again. Well, during the evening time, something happened. I was looking at Jenna, and she was unaware of the preparations being made behind the scenes. I informed her that we would be organizing an event at home to celebrate the anniversary with my dad, a way to honor his memory. Initially hesitant, Jenna eventually agreed, and my grandma and I started preparations. Following that, I instructed the children Jenna had previously evicted to send a letter to Jenna's boyfriend, asking them to attend the event. I also contacted Jenna's co-workers, informing them that Jenna was hosting a party and encouraging them to come. Additionally, we reported to the police about Jenna's illegal activities and previous court cases related to inheritance and property disputes from her previous marriage. Well, guess what? Simultaneously, we provided evidence in the form of documents held by the children she kicked out of their home. The police decided to assist the children in opening a case against Jenna for the inheritance dispute, and after our plan, there was no need to evict Jenna from the home. Spending some time in the slammer would help her come to her senses. The children who have been evicted and face constant challenges were happy to take some revenge on old Jenna. They were delighted to see justice served, and despite Jenna being of no benefit or anyone, her only contribution was making these children a part of my family. While all this was happening, Jenna continued with her preparation, unaware of what's going on. Dressing up, secretly making plans with her lawyer. Jenna, thinking we would be having an event with neighbors for the anniversary, was looking for a dress herself. I was decorating the house and preparing food. After all, this evening was particularly important for Jenna. After all, we had executed a flawless plan. My grandmother was assisting Jenna in choosing a dress, behaving as if she's become close to her, and I assumed Jenna was not enjoying it at all. As the guests were arriving, Jenna had not got here yet. It would truly be a big surprise for her. Jenna's young lover. He also stopped by, and I told him to sit in the front as a surprise was yet to come. The poor young man was happily waiting, unaware of Jenna's true nature. So, we chatted with the guest, drank our beverages, and everything seemed normal until Jenna arrived. My behavior appeared completely ordinary until Jenna got there. So, my grandmother said Jenna had got here, and Jenna had not expected such a crowd. I guess excitement and happiness were evident upon her face. Well, but it did not last long. I immediately told her, right away off the rip, that I want to surprise her. When Jenna came over, she starts panicking upon seeing her young lover. I reassured her to stay calm. We have given everyone an envelope to open. In the envelope was descriptions and pictures of what Jenna has done. First, Jenna's lover stormed out, screaming at Jenna. Then I played the recording of their conversation, and people were shocked and disgusted, looking at Jenna with disdain. Finally, the police swooped in and arrested her, right there on the spot. Jenna was apologizing with tears, but this time I would not feel sorry. She had to pay the price for her actions, and when Jenna saw the children coming towards me, she looked at me in fear. I told her we would meet in court, and thus we got rid of Jenna. Final updates. Hey guys, this is it. As I'm tired of dealing with Jenna, and she has got what she's deserved, Jenna went to prison for fraud. I can't press charges against her because she didn't do any fraud with me, but my testimony allowed her previous victims to get justice. I went with my grandmother and we went to go see the graves of my parents and had a heart-to-heart conversation. My grandmother said that my good intentions had brought the family together. She forgave me. She had never trusted Jenna and only tolerated her because of me. I made progress in my career and I was about to go abroad for a year of work. My grandmother also said that this would be better for me. I wanted to leave everything behind and start a new life. I learned that sometimes you should not give second or third chances to certain people, and that I just, needed to be as well-intentioned as my family. My grandmother has become old, very old, and before leaving the house I hired a caregiver for her. I was afraid something might happen to her. I had no one else besides her. Also, guys, I want to thank you, everybody out there, for reading my story, providing your advice, and all your support. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. So, it looks like Jenna's manipulation and just straight-up toxic behavior catches up to her in the end, and she spends some hard time behind prison bars. I want to know what you guys would have done in this situation. It must have been hard to be OP, coping with the pressure of her stepmom and simply dealing with her father's death. I couldn't imagine being in that perspective, but I do want to hear from you guys. Would you have handled the situation differently? Would you have been more aggressive? What would you have done? Drop it down below in the comment section, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day. And if you guys want to be a part of these daily stories, I'd say the best way is to subscribe. Guys, have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. And of course, remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya.